What's up, guys? Hockey TikToky is back with an all-new video. In today's episode of the podcast, I am talking about the Western Canadian Pacific Division teams, which are Calgary Flames, Vancouver Canucks, and Edmonton Oilers. All three of these teams are within 1 point of each other in the standings, and we're about a third of the way through the season at this point. And I guess to many people, it was a very surprising start to the season for a lot of different reasons for these three different teams. For example, Calgary was never expected to be doing this well to begin the season. I think a lot of people had written them off and thought that they would be a non-playoff team, a team down near the bottom of the standings. And with Vancouver and Edmonton, they were both playoff teams last year. Edmonton went all the way to the Stanley Cup final and lost against Florida. Meanwhile, Vancouver was, making a push to win the division and win the Western Conference and win the even almost the overall President's Trophy during the regular season last year. So I guess the starts that these teams have all had have been not quite what everybody expected. And I guess since it's a third of the way through the year, and they're also tightly packed into the division, they're also so close in the standings right now, I thought it was a good chance to kind of take a look and dissect a little bit about what's going on with these three teams right now. So at the top, there's Vancouver Canucks. They're leading the way because they've played the least amount of games at this point in the year. I think they're only at 26 games played, 32 points. And their main issue, as far as their team goes for the beginning of the year, has been a combination of a couple things. Number one, it would be their goaltender, Thatcher Demko, was injured last year in the playoffs and has been struggling with some sort of knee muscle injury ever since, and hasn't even played a single regular season game this year at all. But he is returning tonight. So that's probably the main storyline or the main thing that everybody can point to when it comes to what's happened to the Vancouver Canucks this year. And then the other big thing that has been around Vancouver Canucks has been the lack of production from some of their star players like Elias Pettersson, and even to some extent JT Miller. He left the team, I think it was about a week or two ago, due to a mysterious circumstances. They said it was for personal reasons, not injury related, I guess, but it remains to be seen what is actually going on with JT Miller. So Miller is out. Pettersson, I think, has started to play better, and Thatcher Demko is making his debut in the crease tonight for the Vancouver Canucks as they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that'll be interesting to see. Will Demko be able to regain the form that he had from before, or will he need to work out the rust that has obviously probably accumulated on his playing ability due to the fact that he's been out for so long? So I'll be kind of keeping a close watch on that for tonight's match against Tampa Bay. And then Edmonton Oilers, they've had their fair share of struggles this year as well. So I guess when it comes to the Oilers, they had an extremely poor start to the season last year as well. And they turned the season around by having a crazy streak where they won like 16 games in a row or something like that in the middle of the season last year. And they, pulled themselves out of a pretty bad tailspin that they were in at the very beginning of the year. And then went on to become one of the most powerful teams in the Western Conference, going all the way to the finals. They beat Vancouver actually along the way. So With Edmonton, the expectations this year are basically cup or bust for the team, and my guess is that they are looking too far ahead to the future, and they're not really focused that much on regular season success. All they want to do is make sure that they get a playoff spot, they don't fall too far out of it, so that they can make their push again to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Kind of like what Florida did when they lost in the finals to Vegas the year before, and then they came right back and won the cup the very next season. So I think that's Edmonton's plan for the year, this season. And then for the Calgary Flames, like I mentioned before, a lot of people kind of written them off and said that they were going to be near the bottom of the league due to the fact that they traded away so many of their veteran players over the last couple of years, ever since that the team fell short of expectations the year after they were actually the top team in the Western Conference. I believe it was 2021, and then 22 they missed the playoffs. 23 is when they started cleaning house. They traded Elias Lindholm, they traded Nikita Zadorov, they traded Hanifin and Tanev. They lost a lot of their veteran players, and yet somehow, and Jacob Markstrom, the goalie, that's the main part. But somehow they have been hanging around it all year this season. And in fact, at times, out of the three clubs, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary, the Flames have been one of the top teams at certain points during the season. They've gone on streaks where they've won 4 or 5 games in a row, but their main problem as of this point right now has been their lack of scoring production. So they're not getting enough goals, and their offense has been very dry almost since the very beginning of the season. In fact, they've only scored more than 3 goals, I believe 3 times this year, and it happened in the first 3 games of the season. Coincidentally, one of which was against Vancouver and one of which was against Edmonton. So we're at a super interesting point of the year. There's a bunch of different ways how these things can go at this point. By the end of tonight, there's a small possibility that the Flames could be leading between these 3 Western Canadian clubs, depending on if they win their game and Edmonton and Vancouver lose. There's also a possibility that Vancouver can start to put some distance between themselves and Edmonton and Calgary if they win their game and the Alberta teams lose. Or there's a chance that Edmonton could take a lead against Vancouver if they collect wins and Vancouver does not. Or all the other different possibilities with overtime and shootout points and all that sort of thing. So no matter what, guys, it's going to be an interesting night of hockey for these 3 clubs. Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary are one of the best sort of rivalries in all of sport as far as I'm concerned, because these 3 teams, they all kind of have a rivalry between the 3 where you don't usually see that. A lot of times it's just one-on-one. Like it's like, Toronto hates Montreal, or Montreal hates Toronto, or the 2 New York teams hate each other or something like that. But it feels like between Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, all 3 of these clubs seem to just have this like extreme competitiveness between them. So I hope that honestly all 3 teams make the playoffs, because that'll give a better chance to see some really, really heated matchups come playoff time. So that's it for now today, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please help the channel out by giving me a subscribe.